overcome them all. HopeNetwork.org/autism.
The toughest criminals in Wyoming are rapidly filling the state's only maximum security prison.
This is reality TV. You are one step in hell, man.
And the prison is having trouble keeping officers on staff.
They come and go real fast. It's a revolving door. Some of them only last a couple weeks and they're gone.
Now, a team of new recruits will be thrown into the fire to face the problems and the inmates at Wyoming State Penitentiary. In the desert outside Rawlins, Wyoming, stands the state's only maximum security prison. This is Wyoming State Penitentiary, home to Wyoming's most dangerous inmates. They've been convicted for murder, rape, and a variety of felonies, and they don't stop breaking the law just because they're locked up. Some have assaulted officers. Some have escaped. Some have even killed on the inside. Keeping convicts like these under control takes an army of top-notch officers. But WSP is chronically and dangerously understaffed. There should be 247 officers working here. Currently, there's about half that many. Even the inmates know how dire the situation is.
This place has never been fully staffed since I've been here. You know, we're down to what? Well, besides the new breed of, or the new class of fish cops who just came in, we were at what, 12% staff? That's National Guard should be coming in by then.
We have lost a lot of employees over the last 2 to 3 years.
Warden Michael Murphy competes with Wyoming's booming oil industry.
They're paying a lot more than what we can pay right now, and they are our chief competitors for the same kind of employee that we're looking for.
The competition has driven Warden Murphy to try something remarkable. To find new officers, the prison has gone recruiting in states rife with unemployment.
We go to where people seem to need the jobs, and we advertise, we recruit.
Now, 30 people have moved to Wyoming for jobs. They come from all over the country and from all walks of life, but they have one thing in common. None of them have ever worked in a prison before.
You are in a male facility. Get back! You have got to be authoritative.
Okay, get back.
No. Back! All right?
The warden must get them on the clock as fast as possible. So they have only 9 weeks to learn everything from policy and procedure to emergency response.
Get back!
Kelly Cooper is a 27-year-old mother of 2. She was laid off from a Michigan doctor's office. Her family back home is shocked at her move.
And they were just like, oh my God, I can't believe you're gonna work in a prison. We're like, not a jail, a prison, a maximum security facility. And oh my God, what are you gonna do when that 300-pound guy comes flying at you?
You came through and you got that first arm. Your hand was over here, so you had to go back in. I'd go across the neck, right there, and just stun him.
Travis De Palma just graduated from college with a degree in criminal justice.
I'm a very personable person. I don't want to come off as a tough CO, a tough correctional officer. You know, I don't want to be buddies with the inmates, but I want them to respect me, and I want to be able to respect them as well.
Brian Moyer is a 52-year-old ex-Marine who worked in Michigan before the economy forced him west.
It's steady. You don't have to worry about the economy. People have been committing criminal acts from the beginning of time, and there's always going to be a need and a place to incarcerate them.
I'm going to get control, and then I'm just simply going to roll the bammer out.
An essential part of training for the new recruits is defensive tactics, distraction techniques, to gain the upper hand in a struggle.
Okay, that'll work.
Proper use of restraints to ensure the officer is always in control.
You don't let her go.
And non-lethal force as a way to subdue inmates quickly and effectively. It's crucial they master all the procedures. It only takes a moment for an inmate to lash out. It happens at prisons around the country. Inmates attack officers. Even experienced COs can fall victim. Officer Greg Murphy, a 15-year veteran, thinks the job may be too difficult for some recruits to handle.
This job is not meant for everybody. I would like to think that they realize this before they hire on with the Wyoming Department of Corrections. But a lot of them get into the training class and they actually see what's going on, and I'm sure it runs through their mind, what did I get myself into? This is not meant for me.
Ready or not, the new recruits are about to enter a prison with a dark past, one that haunts every officer who passes through the doors. It's been a long wait for the warden, who's anxious to beef up his staff. But the inmates have been waiting too, and they have their own way of welcoming new officers. Kelly Cooper and Travis DePalma graduated from the training academy only yesterday. Today, they begin work at the Wyoming State Penitentiary. They know the job will be intense. 46 of last year's recruits, nearly a third, quit the job after less than a year.
I'm nervous.
I'm okay right now.
Once we get in there, it'll be a different story, though.
Yeah.
I think it's just the,
Anticipation of what might happen, what could happen.
That's a good word, anticipation.
All right, guys. Welcome aboard. Glad to have you here.
At morning roll call, the new officers are assigned to their units. To ensure they're well-rounded, they'll eventually need to do shifts in every unit of the prison, even the most violent.
You're going right to work, okay? So we're kind of feeding you to the wolves, if you will, but you're going right to work, right to the pods. Mom, I got you going right down to E unit, okay?
E unit is home to the worst inmates at WSP, those who continually cause problems for staff and other inmates. It's also home to death row. Travis will head there alone, while Kelly makes her way to the general population in B unit. Normally there would be 2 officers in the pod. Due to understaffing, Kelly works it alone.
You're nervous because you think, oh my God, there's 75 men in here to me. As long as they're in front of me and I can see what every one of them is doing and they're not in my personal space, 2.5 feet away, I'm okay with it. As soon as they start getting closer, then, that's when I start feeling uncomfortable and I want to let them know that they need to back off.
Some of the inmates that surround Kelly have done horrible things. James Wiley has been incarcerated since 1990 for killing his family.
When I was 15, I killed my 3 brothers and my stepmom, and I burned the house down. And so then I got 4 life sentences and 18 to 20. I actually, it was like going big game hunting, I guess, in one sense. I mean, it wasn't hard to pull the trigger at all. I knew what I was doing, and I was stone cold. My thought was to kill, and to kill as fast as I could.
After shooting his stepmother, Wiley killed his brothers.
I remember him just leaning forward and just being at peace. And I actually felt good that I thought I had done right. Like he's no more suffering, and it gave me elation that he was no longer suffering. He totally loved me, and I didn't know he loved me at the time. I wasn't worthy. I didn't know any of that. I was nothing but a machine, just ugh.
At the time, Wiley says he believed killing his family was in their best interest.
I was actually convinced myself that if I did something massive bad or something, that it'd make all the other things go away, and that didn't help either. So I was pretty confused as a kid, and I reached out in a lot of desperation, and I did bad things, I took them away.
Wiley is just one of 600 inmates the new recruits must watch. And every month, 60 more inmates arrive. To try to keep down those numbers of new admissions, WSP participates in a special program.
He's got some jewelry, earrings.
In a quiet part of the prison, 3 murderers meet with program counselors to discuss some troubled teens who could be headed to prison.
He also says that he hears voices. He thinks they're the devil, and the devil tells him to do things or have graphic thoughts.
The InReach Outreach program has been putting criminals face to face with at-risk youth since 1982.
He's the toughest because he comes from a long line of family-affiliated gang members.
One of those convicts is Martin Gabriel. Gabriel was sentenced to life for shooting his wife's lover in a jealous rage.
I wasn't a gangster. I wasn't a street warrior. I wasn't involved in drugs. I was a citizen, if you will, who had an anger issue.
Is he the youngest? The oldest in the middle?
One of the teens they'll be meeting is a gangbanger who has problems controlling his anger.
He has a family history of violence.
He's constantly got graphic thoughts and talks about killing people and torturing people constantly.
Given Gabriel's past, he thinks this kid is someone he can reach.
He also talks a lot about wanting to go to prison because life will be easier, and he has homies here that will protect him.
He almost feels like it's a badge of honor. That's the way he talks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe we'll just explain what his homies are going to do to him once he gets here.
Yes, sir.
The inmates know the harsh realities of prison life, and that some convicts cause trouble despite the repercussions. Those inmates who fight each other, resist orders, or assault officers receive a special punishment. They're sent here. E-Unit, the Hole. The inmates here are locked down, forced to live in their cells 23 hours a day. They're allowed out for only 1 hour. During this time, they can shower, exercise, or watch TV. But each of these activities must be done in solitary, behind another locked door. Getting these inmates to and from their activities is the most dangerous time for officers working E-Unit. And it's part of how Rookie Officer Travis DePaulo will spend his first day on the job.
The training, the classroom portion is over. They taught us everything they could in 9 weeks. And now we come in and we're basically getting thrown into the gauntlet, and we're gonna learn it the real way now and learn how you actually operate. So today's just a nervous day in general.
It's a considerable change for Travis, whose only previous job experience was working at a department store.
It's still the same thing. Department store, you're given a task, and you got to help people look for what they need and help them find it. Here your tasks are just a little different. So in terms of the work difference, here I'm working in a prison, but I'm still dealing with people. So.
Chow time.
But the person Travis will be dealing with next isn't a customer. He's a hardened criminal who has a reputation for being volatile. On the outside, he murdered a man with a screwdriver. Now Travis will have to face him on his own turf. Before the cell door is even opened, an officer handcuffs the inmate, then covers the lock so the inmate can't pick it. A lower trap door allows the officer to shackle the inmate with leg irons. Only after these precautions are taken will they open the door.
204!
The inmate knows Travis is new and inexperienced. But Travis must secure one last restraint, a belly chain that attaches to the cuffs.
We stay pretty busy over here, just constantly moving the inmates around, and that's basically how the day plays out.
Travis needs to stay completely alert to handle potentially explosive inmates. It's a first day full of tension, and he's just received word that the day is going to be a lot longer.
Oh, I'm working mandatory overtime today.
So, well, we have an overtime list, and if it's short, then you have to work mandatory overtime. So that's what I'm working, 4 extra hours at least. So.
Mandatory overtime may be a temporary solution to the officer shortage of the pen. But officers at WSP average 23 hours of overtime a month, and the exhaustion of those extra hours may take its toll on Travis and the other new officers, and could jeopardize the security of the prison.
Get by the doors!
Wyoming State Penitentiary is reserved for the worst criminals in the state. New inmates arrive each week, ready to do hard time. And every week, at least one of those inmates is 20 years old or younger.
Right here. Line up. Facing me.
The outreach program is hoping to change that. Martin Gabriel and the other inmates are going to reveal the truth about life behind bars. These delinquent teenagers are here under court orders. The information they're about to get is stuff outsiders rarely hear.
First things first. The fun part's over. All right? Staff talked to you for the first part. Now it's us. If this is where you want to come, keep it up. I don't give a Something funny? Why are you laughing? Don't look to him to help. What's he gonna do?
From the moment the kids enter, the inmates bombard them with hardcore facts of prison life.
This is a place of pain. Mental, emotional, physical pain. Don't forget those words. Pain. You remember those words for the rest of your life.
This is the exclusive club of criminals.
Justin Simcock broke into a stranger's home looking for money to support his meth habit. Instead, he found a gun and ended up shooting a mother of 2 when she came home. He's here for life.
What are you gonna learn the first week you're in prison? You wanna know what you're gonna learn at least within the first week? How you stack up against some of the tougher guys in here.
Beyond the threat of physical violence, some studies indicate that at least 13% of inmates are raped or sexually assaulted in prison.
Catch it? If they don't beat that, they're gonna beat that ass. You catch that?
Yeah.
Huh?
I notice you're done smiling.
Now that they have the kids' attention, Gabriel turns to the angry young gangbanger. He doesn't mince words.
It ain't no joke in here with the homies. Because by themselves, they're crying like You understand that?
Yes.
Gabriel knows the best way to keep him out of prison is to give him a taste of it now.
What are you, a wannabe gangster?
No.
A wannabe tough guy? You know, when people cross me wrong and disrespect me, I toss them the up, man. I toss them the up and slam them down to the ground and beat the out of them. And
The
then
inmates may sound dangerous, but they're chosen by the coordinator based on their desire to redeem themselves.
This is why we do this, to talk to you guys about the foot that's not in prison. You coming to prison. It's a choice you're gonna make today, believe it, because today is where it starts or stops, one or the other. Coming to prison? Way too much time to think.
The inmates' portrayal of prison life isn't exaggerated, but inmates aren't always causing fights or breaking laws. Sometimes, as new officer Brian Moyer is finding out, they're just being difficult. Even a routine activity, like locking down the inmates for head count, is an opportunity for inmates to put up resistance.
Let's go! Get by the doors!
As Moyer tries to get the inmates to report to their cells, they launch a barrage of verbal abuse.
You're only a CO, why do you take orders? You don't get it. You got no strike. Fish shot. You're just a fish.
Skip there. I know. It's right here. I know. Let's go. Shut the door. Thank you very much.
The first time I walked in there, I got called, hey, a new fish, things like this. Who's the new things like that. If you take the bait and they hook you, they'll never let you off the hook. So ignore it. So like I said, you better be tough-skinned to go in there.
Verbal abuse is one thing, but there's a much bigger concern for the officers at WSP.
People think about it every day, talk about it. You can see it in their eyes that they're worried. Something should happen. Are we going to have enough manpower to actually suppress, let's say, a riot in a pod or a massive uprising, let's say even half the penitentiary? Are we going to have enough bodies on hand to handle it? That's always something that goes through your mind. Even if we're fully staffed, there's always that potential for something to flare up.
Should something like a riot happen, the prison may not be able to respond in numbers, but it can respond with force. The Special Operations Response Team, or SORT, routinely trains for emergency situations. This crack squad of 20 specially trained WSP officers is on call 24 hours a day, ready to respond. Most often, they're called in to forcibly remove inmates who are out of control in their cells. On a Wednesday morning in E Unit, an inmate has covered his cell door window with a towel.
Take the towel out. Jump up now. Take the towel down or ISPA will be used, you understand? ISPA.
Inside, he could be doing anything. Hanging himself, abusing an inmate, making weapons, digging a tunnel. When he refuses to comply with orders, SORT fills his cell with pepper spray, or ISPRA, to force him to his knees.
Right now what we're doing is we're letting him let it kind of soak in a little bit, let it start to try to affect that respiratory, so he decides complying is better than staying in there and trying to prove his point.
Sergeant Sean Kelly is the Penn's Special Ops Team commander.
We continue to give those repetitive loud verbal commands to try to get him to comply.
The inmate removes the towel, but still refuses to be cuffed at the door. He stands defiantly at the other end.
At this point, we're making the decision to enter the cell. We realize that ISPRA is ineffective or not effective enough to get him to cuff up.
An officer unlocks the door, but it won't open. The inmates used his towel to jam it. Without knowing what else he might have done to booby-trap the cell, the team forces the door open and rushes in. Fortunately, there are no other surprises.
They're putting restraints on his arms, on his hands, behind his back. It's safer for the individual and it's safer for us to have more people in there to control the inmate. We don't want anybody to get hurt.
With a variety of weapons, ammunition, and protective gear at SORT's disposal, it's ready to handle most every situation.
And here's our long gun cage. Out on perimeter, we use 870 shotguns, 37 millimeter launcher. The Glock 17, it's a 9 millimeter electronic shield.
SORT trains regularly, using emergency scenarios to master all of their weapons. One weapon the prison used to employ is both incapacitating and non-lethal.
Penitentiary, we do have
The M26 Advanced Taser sends 50,000 volts through the body, enough electricity to start a car.
Imagine the most agonizing pain you've ever been in.
It's bad. I'd rather get shot with a real gun.
Oh yeah, I wholeheartedly agree.
Though WSP no longer uses the taser, the SORT team is willing to demonstrate its power.
I feel nervous, but, I'm willing to take it, so.
Ready, Mario?
Do it. Job.
As you can see, it causes that incapacitation. What was actually stuck inside of him are these little probes. All they are is a number 8 fish hook, and it goes inside and makes contact with the skin, causes that 50,000 volts to go across here.
I'm lightheaded right now.
But all of their weapons are only effective if the inmate is within range. At WSP, prisoners have been known to break out. And one inmate in particular is the master of escape. At Wyoming State Penitentiary, the officers are on high alert, watching for any sign that the prisoners could go off. But it doesn't take a mob of inmates to throw a prison into turmoil. Sometimes it takes just one.
Before I even came to prison, I always kind of knew I was going to escape. I just had it in my heart. I was like, I'm going to get out, you know?
When convicted murderer James Wiley was housed at the Old North facility, he figured out an ingenious method of escape by simply being observant.
And the way I learned how to do it is I'd watch the animals. I watched the rabbits go in and out through the razor wire, and as long as they ignored the razor wire, it wouldn't cut them. And I'd watch the coyote. The coyote moved in a manner, kind of with his head down, and no one noticed the coyote there. It was just kind of me. So I was like, moved like that.
Another coyote revealed a crucial part of the plan, something Wiley wouldn't have known otherwise.
I had seen this one coyote, this one day it walked over along the fence, stopped at this gate, and looked at the prison, and turned, walked down into the ditch. And I was waiting for it to come out, and it never came out. And I was like, there's a ditch there. And then I understood the layout.
Wiley waited for the right time, then jumped the fence and used the ditch as cover. Running along the ditch, he made his way through the desert toward town.
The escape episode was a huge ordeal. It was a hair-raising thing for everybody. I imagine him as well. Adrenaline-pumping situation for staff.
In the end, a friend turned him in, but only after he had 4 days of freedom.
I would probably never escape again. I promised the warden and other people that this is my home. I give them timelines. I'm like, I won't escape for the next 4 years guaranteed. Because I don't want to stay forever, but...
Do you think somebody could escape from this prison now?
It's quite easily. I could get out of it in 2 minutes, to be honest with you.
Wiley may think he could escape again, but it'd be a lot tougher from the new facility. A pressure-sensitive fence now surrounds the prison. Should anyone try to scale it, alarms sound at central control, pinpointing the exact location of the attempted breach. Officers in heavily armed patrol vehicles circling the prison 24 hours a day can be on the scene in seconds, and when they shoot, they aim for the heart.
And then he gets on the fence. Our job is to stop and order him off the fence. And if he doesn't get off the fence, then we're supposed to shoot. We only give one verbal warning. We don't give any warning shots no more.
Working the floor of B Unit, Kelly Cooper quickly becomes the center of attention in the pod. Kelly has to be careful. If she gets too comfortable with the inmates, she might drop her guard. And officers who aren't vigilant could be a danger to themselves and the prison.
Right now it's sort of difficult because I find myself wanting to just give them all advice and, you know, help them out in every way. And I'm like, oh, I can't do that, you know.
In A Unit, the inmates are testing new officer Travis De Palma in a different way, by keeping him hopping. Inmates here are free to roam the pod during certain hours, but they still need Travis to let them in and out of their cells.
When they know you're busy, that's when they try to get to you. They try to run you, and they try to wear you down, because then by 2 o'clock you're so exhausted, you just don't care anymore.
If the inmates can push Travis to the point where he loses his cool, they may be able to file a grievance against him.
We get inmates constantly in your face every day, constantly yelling at you about this, yelling at you about that. And it gets old after a while. I mean, I've been here, 2 weeks now, and it's getting old.
Travis is still learning how to deal with the inmates after 2 weeks. The inmates had a fix on him after the first day.
This officer currently working, he's young, he wants to be really by the book. It seems like he's kind of timid, so he's putting kind of that front out there, you know what I mean? I've already heard a couple guys as of today talking about, you know, they don't like this guy. And it's only because when he came in here, you know what I mean, he doesn't respect the boundaries. he just doesn't really know how to deal with us yet and whatnot, and so he just goes by the book, you know. New officers go by the book. Old officers tend to be more lenient and let us get away with more stuff.
Travis is trying his best to apply what he learned in school and at the academy. But if the inmates already have it out for the new officer, there may be some hard lessons in store. It's lunchtime for the kids from the outreach program. The inmates who've been telling them of the horrors of prison now escort them to the chow hall. Prisoners relish any variation from the routine, and to these inmates, a group of teenage boys provides a chance to act up. They're just toying with the kids, but the experience is effective.
This ain't the place to be, Joe.
I'll tell you what, this is the most important part right here. You know, we told you all morning about what prison was like. You just walked into that chow hall. Tell me I was lying all morning. You know it for a fact now. You felt it when you walked in there.
Back in the meeting room, the inmates assess what each teen delinquent must do to avoid coming to prison. Once again, they turn their attentions to the young gangbanger.
You got a whole lot of negativity around you. You know, you got a lot of family members, you got a lot of homies in the hood, you know, and you're going to face obstacles that the average person probably couldn't handle. And you're going to have to show that you can handle it, that you can change your life, that you want to change your life. You're going to have to step away, you know, and say no more. And it's not too late for you to step away. Because let me tell you something, if you're banging, you don't have a life.
And you want to make that change?
Yeah. Let me tell you something, what if they said it takes an ass whooping? What if it takes 3?
Bring it, I guess. No, I don't know, I guess. Bring it there.
There you go.
Though the odds seem stacked against this young man, the program succeeds in keeping over 90% of participants out of prison. And this team may be one of the lucky ones.
I just don't like having people in my face and talk. I didn't realize that they weren't talking. They were trying to help me, telling me that this place is f***ed up. I want to change now. After being in here and checking this place out, I never thought it'd be like this.
The group has painted a frightening and dangerous portrait of prison and convicts. And the truth is, the inmates could explode at any moment. Over in B Unit, the new officer Brian Moyer is learning to spot the signals that an inmate is about to go off.
Basically, it comes down to a sixth sense. You just watch the body language, watch his eyes, watch his hands, listen to his voice. It starts to go up and get louder. Those are basically the warning signs.
The inmate Brian's escorting has just had an argument with his caseworker, and now he's agitated. The officers lead him to his cell, but before they can open the door, something sets him off. The incident is escalating, and in this moment, Brian has to decide how he's going to react. He reaches for his pepper spray, but if he uses it, things could go from bad to worse. Brian's been on the job for only 2 weeks, and already he faces a crucial decision. An inmate seems to be getting out of control, and Brian must decide how to handle it. The rest of the inmates in B Unit watch to see what he'll do.
That one individual came very, very close to getting pepper sprayed because I had my pepper spray out. You don't see spray out? He didn't know it though.
Fortunately, Brian is able to defuse the situation before it explodes.
If he'd have gotten physically aggressive, I would have given him a shot of OC spray.
One tense moment in a day full of tense moments. But new officer Brian Moyer was ready.
I had the can out, using my hand, finger was on the nozzle, and basically he may be riding the school bus, but we still steer the bus. We're driving the bus.
After isolating the inmate in an empty cell, Brian and officers remove all the property from his old cell as punishment.
Confiscation. Porn.
What?
Porn. Got him on an MJ-28. Flip the mattress back, and lo and behold, there was some pornographic material there. I'll have to do a report, and whatever shift command decides to do will happen. That's not allowed. Pornographic materials are not allowed. No nudity, no nothing.
There are many rules at WSP. It's up to the new officers to see that inmates follow them. One of the rules is crucial for the safety of all the officers. Rookie Travis De Palma insists inmates observe the lines around the prison.
Black and yellow lines that are on the podium and elsewhere in the pods are the lines. Basically, it's a border. Inmates shouldn't be crossing them. So if they come up to talk to you, they'd have to stand back. You have a reactionary gap, a comfort zone that is comfortable for you, and that's different for everyone. I know officers that can get pretty close with inmates. I prefer if they stay back a few feet. Gives them time to react if anything happens. So if an inmate crosses that line, or even if I'm out there and they just come up too close, I ask them to stay back.
But not everyone follows the rules, as Travis finds out. He was opening a cell door for an inmate when a seemingly small incident began to spin out of control.
He wanted to get in, so I went to lock him down. He stuck his foot in the door and tried to prevent me from closing it. Told him to take his foot away. Some words were exchanged, and I let it go. Came back downstairs. This happened on the upper tier. I came back downstairs and went over by my podium, and he came up and got pretty much right in my face.
As the pod looked on, the angry inmate tore into Travis, cursing and yelling in his face.
Finally, I had enough, and I'm not going to stand there and take that. So I told him to lock down now. And so I locked him down. I put him on a temporary restrictive order and filled out all the paperwork, and he's still locked down as of right now.
For an officer who was initially concerned about being too tough on inmates, Travis didn't hesitate to stand up when he felt it was necessary. And his actions sent a clear message throughout the pod.
I'm actually glad that I locked him down, because the guys in those pods now know that I'm not going to stand there and take that. They know that I'm not going to let them get up in my face, yell and cuss at me, and not obey the orders when I tell them to lower their voice and step back. I'm not going to stand here and take that. That's not what I'm hired on for. So I'm not going to stand there and take it.
During a routine head count in A Unit, new officer Kelly Cooper faces her own trial with an inmate. While she's trying to herd the inmates into their cells, one inmate refuses to get off the payphone. After telling him twice, Kelly calls for help.
Well, I can't lock you out unless the door's open, right?
Just like everybody else, you can stand in front of your door.
The inmates may have considered her nothing but a fish, but in the end, Kelly Cooper proves to them she won't be pushed around. The new recruits have been on the job for 2 weeks. In that time, they've risen to meet the challenges of a difficult and sometimes dangerous job. Soon another group of recruits will be in training at the penitentiary. They'll come from different backgrounds and different parts of the country. And together, they'll learn everything the Academy has to teach them.
Overcome them all. HopeNetwork.org/autism.
The toughest criminals in Wyoming are rapidly filling the state's only maximum security prison.
This is reality TV. You are one step in hell, man.
And the prison is having trouble keeping officers on staff.
They come and go real fast. It's a revolving door. Some of them only last a couple weeks and they're gone.
Now, a team of new recruits will be thrown into the fire to face the problems and the inmates at Wyoming State Penitentiary. In the desert outside Rawlins, Wyoming, stands the state's only maximum security prison. This is Wyoming State Penitentiary, home to Wyoming's most dangerous inmates. They've been convicted for murder, rape, and a variety of felonies, and they don't stop breaking the law just because they're locked up. Some have assaulted officers. Some have escaped. Some have even killed on the inside. Keeping convicts like these under control takes an army of top-notch officers. But WSP is chronically and dangerously understaffed. There should be 247 officers working here. Currently, there's about half that many. Even the inmates know how dire the situation is.
This place has never been fully staffed since I've been here. We're down to what? Well, besides the new breed of, or the new class of fish shops that just came in, we were at what, 12% staff? That's National Guard should be coming in by then.
We have lost a lot of employees over the last 2 to 3 years.
Warden Michael Murphy competes with Wyoming's booming oil industry.
They're paying a lot more than what we can pay right now, and they are our chief competitors for the same kind of employee that we're looking for.
The competition has driven Warden Murphy to try something remarkable. To find new officers, the prison has gone recruiting in states rife with unemployment.
We go to where people seem to need the jobs, and we advertise, we recruit.
Now, 30 people have moved to Wyoming for jobs. They come from all over the country and from all walks of life, but they have one thing in common. None of them have ever worked in a prison before.
You are in a male facility. Get back! You have got to be authoritative.
Okay, get back.
No. Back! All right?
The warden must get them on the clock as fast as possible. So they have only 9 weeks to learn everything from policy and procedure to emergency response.
Get back!
Kelly Cooper is a 27-year-old mother of 2. She was laid off from a Michigan doctor's office. Her family back home is shocked at her move.
And they were just like, oh my God, I can't believe you're gonna work in a prison. They're like, not a jail, a prison, a maximum security facility. And oh my God, what are you gonna do when that 300-pound guy comes flying at you?
You came through and you got that first arm. Your hand was over here, so you had to go back in. I'd go across the neck, right there, and just stun him.
Travis De Palma just graduated from college with a degree in criminal justice.
I'm a very personable person. I don't want to come off as a tough CO, a tough correctional officer. You know, I don't want to be buddy-buddies with the inmates, but I want them to respect me, and I want to be able to respect them as well.
Brian Moyer is a 52-year-old ex-Marine who worked in Michigan before the economy forced him west.
It's steady. You don't have to worry about the economy. People have been committing criminal acts from the beginning of time, and there's always going to be a need and a place to incarcerate them.
I'm going to get control, and then I'm just simply going to roll the bammer out.
An essential part of training for the new recruits is defensive tactics, distraction techniques, to gain the upper hand in a struggle.
Okay, that'll work.
Proper use of restraints to ensure the officer is always in control.
Now you don't let her go.
And non-lethal force as a way to subdue inmates quickly and effectively.
Don't fight that girl.
It's crucial they master all the procedures. It only takes a moment for an inmate to lash out. It happens at prisons around the country. Inmates attack officers. Even experienced COs can fall victim. Officer Greg Murphy, a 15-year veteran, thinks the job may be too difficult for some recruits to handle.
This job is not meant for everybody. I would like to think that they realize this before they hire on with the Wyoming Department of Corrections. But a lot of them get into the training class and they actually see what's going on. And I'm sure it runs through their mind, you know, what did I get myself into? You know, this is not meant for me.
Ready or not, the new recruits are about to enter a prison with a dark past, one that haunts every officer who passes through the doors. It's been a long wait for the warden, who's anxious to beef up his staff. But the inmates have been waiting too. and they have their own way of welcoming new officers. Kelly Cooper and Travis De Palma graduated from the training academy only yesterday. Today, they begin work at the Wyoming State Penitentiary. They know the job will be intense. 46 of last year's recruits, nearly a third, quit the job after less than a year.
I'm nervous.
I'm okay right now.
Once we get in there, it'll be a different story, though.
Yeah.
I think it's just the,
Anticipation
Yeah.
of what might happen, what could happen.
that's a good word, anticipation.
All right, guys. Welcome aboard. Glad to have you here.
At morning roll call, the new officers are assigned to their units. To ensure they're well-rounded, they'll eventually need to do shifts in every unit of the prison, even the most violent.
You're going right to work, okay? So we're kind of feeding you to the wolves, if you will, but you're going right to work, right to the pods. Mom, I got you right going right down to E unit, okay?
E unit is home to the worst inmates at WSP, those who continually cause problems for staff and other inmates. It's also home to Death Row. Travis will head there alone, while Kelly makes her way to the general population in B unit. Normally there would be 2 officers in the pod. Due to understaffing, Kelly works it alone.
You're nervous because you think, oh my God, there's 75 men in here to me. As long as they're in front of me